Hey guys, my name is That Quiet Kid, and in this video, I'm going to share my CRTO exam experience. So let's talk about the course content overview. So you have to enumerate an AD environment using tools with the help of Cobalt Strike. So most of the tools are already present, so you just have to load them, and you do all of these attacks through Cobalt Strike. It covers, in my opinion, it covers almost all the attack vectors, like from initial compromise to persistence, like all the lateral movement attacks, all the different types of attacks, persistence, everything. I think it covers, like, in terms of content, it covers a lot of AD content. So it's like not possible to explain all the attack vectors in this video, so I will share this CRTO link as well in the description. uh, However, it does come with some very interesting AD attacks that I would like to mention, like token impersonation. So, what is token impersonation? So, basically, let's say you are a user A on a system workstation A. So, you have a user B which has a process running on it, and you have to escalate your privileges from user A to user B. So, you can basically impersonate that particular process, and by doing that, you are impersonating that particular user. So that was a very, I would say, handy way of privilege escalation. And shadow credentials, so shadow credentials is kind of similar to that, like RBCD. It's kind of like exploiting, it's kind of like when you have write access over a property, so of a computer object. So in RBCD you have that write property over I think MSDS allowed to act on behalf of others, and here you have key credentials. So I'm not going to like explain too much, but I think it's a pretty interesting attack, along with RBCD. So like if you have write properties over a computer object, like a computer, or not computer object, like a domain object, like a computer. So that was like pretty good way to laterally move and go further into the environment. Relay is kind of like a no fix privilege escalation on a system. Let's say you are only a user on that particular system, you have to escalate your to admin. So that was a pretty good way, I would say. Curb relay, web dev, which I have been a fan of for so long, to be very honest, because web dev is an attack which is like I have done tried almost at least tried in almost all of the engagements that I have done, all the red team engagements that I've done, because it's personally one of my favorite, because it's like very easy, it works most of the time. And force certificates for persistence, one way inbound and outbound trust, labs. These are all very interesting topics in my opinion, which they have added. So moving on, my exam experience was this. I had, like, you have 48 hours to complete the exam, and the exam environment is similar to that of the lab. Similar in the sense that it, like, the initial access that you have, you learn, it's almost similar. The exam environment is also almost similar to that, and it took me around 17 to 18 hours to complete it. So so I would say, like, I slept for like 6 7 hours. You can reduce that, so like 11 12 hours to complete it. The exam has defender enabled, and I mean latest one, so it might take you some time for doing the troubleshooting of C2 and your tools. So if you have good grasp of AD concepts, so if you have good grasp of AD concepts, that part should be fairly easy. Like, I personally think I have a good grasp of AD concepts, like, and for that reason, I think the AD part for me was very easy. But the difficult part was AV. Like, I don't have much experience with antivirus evasions and that. So antivirus, I don't have much experience and then don't understand much. So that part was definitely tough for me. For the exam, I would say only go for the exam if you have solved the lab with AV enabled, and you have good grasp of, like, overall good grasp of AD concepts or AD attack vectors, I would say, explained in the course. Moving on, I have a few suggestions for the exam. First, you have, when you solve the lab initially, you don't have defender enabled in the lab. So after you go through like one round of all the attacks without defender, go again with defender enabled. So that way, because you will be familiar, you will have a better understanding of how these attacks work and how these don't work, like if defender is enabled. So that will definitely give you a more better idea of how the exam is going to be, because it is going to be with defender enabled and the latest one. The lab one, I don't think it's the latest one. The exam one is definitely a bit different from the lab, the defender. I would say, yes, the exam is a bit tough. I also think so that the exam is a bit tough if you don't understand AV yet, like me. Like I literally have no understanding of AV, and I kind of avoided it most of the time because these don't really focus on AV. So I try to avoid this part. I'm also not really good at AV antivirus evasions as well. So that from that perspective, the exam is a bit tricky, and you can pass. The one good thing about this exam is you can pass with 6 flags. So out of 8, if you have 6 flags, you have passed the exam. So what I mean by 6 flags is there are 3 domains in the, like, I think in the lab as well. I'm not sure about the lab, but in the exam there are like 3 domains. So if you compromise 2 domains, you have passed the exam. So that is like, if you compromise 2 out of 3, you have passed the exam. So I would say remember to take breaks, and Defender may give you some issues with the beacon. So beacon is the initial payload that you deploy on the workstations, through which you will get access on your Cobalt Strike. So those beacons will definitely give you some issues because Defender might detect it, and it will remove it. So most of the times which I have observed is it's the issue with signature. So let's say you have fixed everything, you deploy a beacon, there is a tool called as threat checker. So threat checker basically checks the bytes, like I would say, at which particular memory address it is getting detected. So you can go and search that in Gidra. That will give you the code which is getting detected, and let's say you have fixed all these points, and even after that your beacon is getting detected. So it might be the issue with signature. So one good way, I would say very handy way to bypass signature detection is by putting randomization. So if you have purchased this course or gone through this course, you will understand what I'm talking about. Just put some randomization here and there between the code, so that will help you in bypassing the signatures. And at the end of the day, best of luck for the exam. And last but not least, I have my opinions on the course and exam. Overall, I would say the course was really good because I, again, in the beginning, I mentioned that it covers almost all of the AD attack vectors. So in that way, I think it's really good. But I would say that the material could have been more thoroughly explained. What I mean by that is they have only a certain theory part. I would say, like, they could have explained it better in the sense is more elaborated. And I would say, some of the things that took me a long time was with Defender enabled. They could have put in like more content for AV as well, like if you have AV enabled, these attacks might not work, this is how this is your way around these attacks. So I think in that case, it could have been better. That is what I want to say. So I would again, that this is the same, this is kind of like my same issue with CRTP as well. Like they don't include attacks that you will see in real world. Like if you are doing a real world engagement, you will try LMNR poisoning first. If you have LMNR poisoning, you will go with SMB relay, instead of capturing a certain, simply relaying it using SMB relay, IPv6, DNS takeover, and ACL's abuse, like write access, generic write, these all like ACL abuse that you will see in real world. And that web dev, like all of these, I would say these are the attacks that you'll see in real world. And like majority of these AD courses don't really cover these attacks as well. I think TCM does cover SMB relay, IPv6, and LMNR poisoning, which is, I think, pretty good, because this is what you are going to see in a real world engagement. I personally don't think kerber roasting will work in real world. Like it's 90, I think 99% it's definitely not, you were not going to be able to crack these, because in real world, like every organization is aware about these attacks. So kerber roasting, I would say, constrained delegation, to be very honest, like these attacks are, you're not going to see much of these attacks in real world. What you are going to see in real world is LMNR, SMB. You can try these attacks, IPv6, Web dev, that certificates is like present in every other engagement I have done, almost in every other engagement. So I would say that is like they are shifting a bit far from the real world. Like it's good that you are explaining a lot of these topics, but should include these as well, like not too much, but at least a bit of, I would say, these topics should have been included in these courses. So I would recommend this course if you want to get familiarized with C2 framework. So Cobalt Strike, you perform all these attacks using Cobalt Strike, which is a C2 framework. So this is kind of like your introduction to C2. To be very honest, I think the price is a bit too high for lab. So what I mean by that is if you purchase CRTP, you have 30 days of lab access. What I mean by that is complete 30 days of lab access. This is not the case for CRTO. I know it is, I think, deployed in cloud and it is pretty expensive, but it gives you like for 44 pounds, you have only 40 hours of lab. So kind of like you get that duration like for 30 days. In between those 30 days you can use these 40 hours, so you don't have complete 30 days of lab access. So I think that is a bit too pricey, and why I say that it is a bit too pricey, you will understand a bit more when I talk about the second last point. So the community support is definitely the worst out of all the big three certificates. So I have given OSCP, I have given CRTP, I have given CRTO. I have prepared for all of these three. I have seen the community support for all of these three, and in my personal opinion, OSCP was the best in terms of community support. Like the community of OSCP is so big that you get a response within minutes whenever you are stuck. I would say CRTP is a bit less than OSCP, and CRTO is definitely the worst. Like I don't really want to say this, but to be very honest, that's the truth. Like CRTO, if you have a doubt, you will have to wait for hours. And see, you have only 40, or let's say you have your lab deployed. You're working on a point, working on a attack, and in between you are stuck. So you're googling, Google, using Google to figure out some stuff, reading about it, and it is like costing you a lot of time. Usually in CRTP you have those 30 complete days, so here you have hours. So you have to be very efficient in using those hours. So if you're stuck on a point and nobody answers you in the community, so you are stuck for a long time. So that is like I would say like they should have better community support for CRTU. And I would say overall, if you ask me about like what are the contents provided in the course, it was good. I got familiarized with a C2 framework as well. So overall it was good, but it could have been better. Like that is what I want to say. So that's it in this video, and thank you for watching.